My sister-in-law had an affair with my brother's friend and forced me to keep it secret, but when her lover appeared, what happened next broke my family apart.
I, a 22-year-old female, have an older brother, a 26-year-old male, who has been married to his girlfriend of 2 years for about 6 months.
My brother and I don't get along at all and haven't been on good terms since high school, when he spread a rumor that I was a kleptomaniac and that people had to be wary of me. He did this because he was mad at me for telling his then-girlfriend that he'd been flirting with another girl who had a bio class with him. My brother was a bit of a playboy in high school and had a reputation for messing around with multiple girls at a time because he thought it made him look cool. When I told his then-girlfriend that he'd been cheating on her, she confronted him in the cafeteria, and there was a whole scene where she humiliated him in front of all his cronies. He somehow found out that I had tattled, and to retaliate, he spread that rumor about me. Of course, everyone believed him because he was 18, a senior on the varsity football team, and I was just a 14-year-old freshman. He ruined the next couple of years of my life with that rumor. I was already kind of unattractive and dorky in high school with braces, so a rumor like this was the last thing I needed. I got bullied relentlessly for the next 4 years. After my brother graduated, I didn't even get to attend prom, homecoming, or any other events because nobody wanted to be seen with me. That's how bad the bullying was. I had a couple of friends who were only with me because they'd also been bullied, so that was some solace, but still, my brother had totally ruined my high school experience with what he did. That kind of bullying is enough to scar anyone for life. The saddest part was that I hadn't even offered that information to his girlfriend voluntarily. She cornered me after school one day and demanded to know if the other girl had anything to do with my brother. I got too intimidated because she was a senior and a lot bigger than me physically, so I told her the truth. I didn't want any trouble, and I also didn't want to lie because I felt that both the other girl and his girlfriend deserved better than to be cheated on. If I had known that what I did that day would backfire in the worst possible way, I probably would have just kept my mouth shut. That was back then. After he started that rumor, I stopped talking to him. I still had to live with him under the same roof, but that was it, and I tried my very best to avoid conversation with him at any cost. He moved out for college after a few months, but even when he'd come back home for the holidays, I'd avoid him like the plague. I wouldn't say I went no contact with him after I moved out because that wasn't possible. Both of us would come back for the holidays, and our parents had instructed us both to be on our best behavior around our relatives, so we tried our best to be civil to each other for our parents' sake, but that's about it. I didn't have any intention of attending his wedding either, but my mother told me that it would be really strange if I didn't, and my parents care a lot about keeping up appearances, so I did as they said. I think I got lucky that I did because that's how I found out about my sister-in-law's affair. My sister-in-law, Chloe, a 28-year-old female, I'm using a fake name for her, had been with my brother for 2 years before they got married. They'd met through a common friend. She'd never been very nice to me whenever we used to meet at holidays and stuff and would always act stuck up. I didn't find that very surprising since she was my brother's girlfriend, so I never made an effort to get to know her either, and neither of us liked the other. On the day of her wedding, about half an hour after the ceremony was over and I'd had my lunch, I decided it was time to leave. At the time, Chloe had told everyone that she was going back to the hotel to change into something more comfortable so she could join in on the celebration, and she'd been gone for 10 minutes when I took my leave. On my way to the parking lot, however, I caught her making out with one of my brother's friends, Marcus, in a desolate corner where nobody would be able to see them. Unfortunately, my car was parked a few spots away from where they were standing. I was stunned and didn't even know what to say, but then Chloe spotted me and tore away from Marcus as quickly as she could. I was frozen in my place and watched her push Marcus away and tell him to leave. He made a run for it, and she decided to approach me. I didn't say a word while she talked to me and explained that while my brother was a wonderful guy and she knew that he'd always provide for her, her heart wanted something else, which just meant that my brother was rich enough for her to marry, but Marcus was the one she loved. I was repulsed because I always looked down on gold diggers, but then Chloe requested me to keep this quiet, and she'd give me whatever I wanted. Something just clicked at that point, and I decided that I wanted to get back at my brother for everything that he put me through. Had it been someone else who was getting cheated on, I would have definitely spoken up and let them know, but my brother himself had taught me the importance of staying silent sometimes. He'd been the one to teach me that just because you know things doesn't mean you have to say things back in high school. So, I told Chloe that I'd keep quiet, but only if she'd be willing to pay me $1,000 every month. I knew that my brother made a decent amount of money, and Chloe had a somewhat okay income as well, but it wasn't as much as my brother's. He's a data analyst, and Chloe works at the front desk in a hotel, so they could definitely afford to spare $1,000 for me every month. Chloe had initially been a little resistant, but I reminded her that she herself had told me that she was ready to offer me anything, and I named my price, so the ball was now in her court. She could either agree to my terms and send me the money every month, or I could go and tell my brother everything. I was fine with either. She tried to negotiate, but I put my foot down and refused to back down. So, eventually, she had to agree. I've been working as an HR representative at a firm after I graduated from college, and I can live nicely. $1,000 isn't something I wouldn't be able to do without, but it definitely did help, not only financially but also because I felt great knowing that I was getting back at my brother and his wife for being horrible to me. That's the way it had been for the last 6 months until last week when Marcus decided to pay me a visit out of the blue. I could see through the cameras outside that he brought a cake with him to make it look like it was my birthday or something, and I guess that's how he'd gotten past security by saying it was a surprise. I didn't trust him at all and was skeptical about letting him into my apartment, so he spoke to me right from outside the door. Apparently, Chloe had finally told him about our little arrangement, and he didn't like it. He'd come over to talk to me and tell me that I needed to back off. He said that I couldn't just blackmail Chloe like this and told me that if I tried to get in touch with her again, he'd make sure that I'd have hell to pay. I was really pissed off and told him to leave me alone, and he did, but only after he reminded me that he was capable of turning my life into a total nightmare if he put his mind to it. He left the cake for me at the door, and it said nothing apart from the B word and icing. I hate his guts, but I've got to hand it to him. He does know how to execute theatrics just perfectly. After threatening me, Marcus went away, and I decided to make the call and informed my brother about what Chloe had been up to for God knows how long. I was furious that she'd even dare to send someone to threaten me because, as far as I was concerned, I was holding up my end of the deal well and hadn't breathed a word of what I'd caught her doing to anyone at all, and she'd had the audacity to let Marcus threaten me. I knew that she knew about Marcus's visit because after he left, I checked my phone to call her first, but I realized that she'd blocked me, which is why I decided to call my brother. Fortunately, he did answer the call, and I told him everything, including the bribes. I said that now he could do whatever he wanted with that information and hung up before he could respond. Then I kept my phone aside and went for a short walk to clear my head. I came back to more than 50 texts and 10 missed calls from Chloe, accusing me of ruining her life. My mother had also called me, and I decided to call her back to understand what exactly was happening. Apparently, my brother had already suspected her of cheating because she'd been stupid enough to leave her phone unlocked around him several times, and he'd read a couple of texts from Marcus, but they weren't suspicious texts, so my brother didn't mind it. However, he did question her on why exactly she'd speak to Marcus so often because, as far as he knew, they weren't friends. She convinced him that they were friends now and that it was all platonic, but today, after I told my brother what was going on behind his back, he confronted Chloe and realized that she'd been stringing him along all this while after he checked her phone. Now he's about to file for divorce and is absolutely devastated. My parents are furious with me because I enabled this for 6 whole months and want me to apologize to my brother and return the money to him because it's blackmail money. I don't agree with what they're saying at all because, first of all, I don't even think this is technically blackmail. She's the one who offered to do something for me. I know she probably meant to get me a spa treatment for free at the hotel or something less conspicuous than this, but this is what I wanted, and she agreed to my terms. It wasn't blackmail. It was just a deal that his wife had struck up with me to keep her secret, fair and square. So, I don't understand what they're so up in arms about when it's Chloe they should be mad at right now. On top of that, the expectation that I'll apologize to my brother and return the money to him is absolutely ridiculous. I don't owe him either of those, and I'm definitely not going to do it. He was a jerk to me and ruined 4 years of my life with his stupid rumor, and I haven't been able to get over that still. As for the money, that's between Chloe and me, and since I held up my end of the deal, I think I'm definitely entitled to what I got, and I'm not paying anyone back. I told my parents I wasn't doing either of those things, so now they're threatening to cut me out of their lives for good because I've turned into someone they don't recognize anymore. It's been a week, and I haven't yet spoken to them, but they remind me every day that what I did was really messed up, but I honestly don't think so. Am I the asshole for taking bribes from my sister-in-law to hide her affair from my brother because my brother started a rumor about me in high school? So, I did what everyone here suggested, and I decided to go no contact with my family. This incident finally made me realize that my parents were also just as bad as my brother, and I'm actually better off without all of them. They just suck and haven't ever been nice or kind to me. Everything they used to do was just to make it seem like we were a happy family on the surface, but I know the truth. I know that they never stood up for me and let me get bullied for years without a word because they didn't want to get involved. They never reprimanded my brother either for starting the rumor for the same reason and dismissed it as normal sibling rivalry when they could see very clearly that he'd made me suffer badly. Nobody had bullied him after his girlfriend yelled at him in the cafeteria. It was just one bad day for him, but to retaliate for that one bad day, he ruined 4 years of my life. Even then, I continued to try and act normal around him just for the sake of my parents because I wanted to be a good daughter to them for some crumbs of affection and validation, but I'm not going to get any of that. My brother and I were close growing up and only grew apart when he started high school because he was suddenly too cool for his little sister, and I was too dorky to be seen with him. So, really, my entire family has been nothing but shallow and cruel, and I'm actually glad that I'm finally done with them. They were never going to love me, and they were never going to change. Even with this incident, they found a scapegoat and tried to make me the bad guy without even caring about why I did what I did. Had they tried to fix things for me back when I was suffering or intervened and made my brother be a decent person to me, then maybe I wouldn't have done something so extreme and unnecessary to him just for revenge, but they don't care about my past. All they care about is that I ruined my brother's future and his marriage. I'm selfish, I'm heartless, and I'm a criminal, and so much more, but he's just that perfect little boy who, by the way, is in his late 20s. I was foolish to ever expect that my family would be kind to me, and I was an even bigger fool to continue to stay in touch with my brother after what he did to me just so that my parents wouldn't be mad at me. I should have just cut him off after I moved out for college and let that be the end of whatever little relationship we still had. But, as they say, every cloud has a silver lining, so I'm going to choose to look at the bright side of this. Karma finally got him, and now he's going to experience the pain that he'd put so many girls and women through during his high school and college days just so that he could appear cool and desirable to his other lame guy friends. The cheater finally gets cheated on. Life has come full circle for him. All I'm going to do is just grab the popcorn and wait for the drama to unfold because I've earned this. It's not like I'm walking away totally empty-handed because my sister-in-law's bribe still covered half of my rent for a couple of months, and it was great while it lasted. So, right now, I have no regrets to speak of. I mulled over it, stewed about it, and even wept a lot, but finally, I did manage to block all my family members everywhere I could. I've also told security not to let any of my family visit me, so there's just no way they can get to me unless I choose to let them. As for Marcus and Chloe, they've pretty much been silent ever since the news broke. In a way, it's quite relaxing since I don't have to worry about anyone now and can just live the way I want to without giving a damn about my parents. I feel a lot less burdened than I used to, and I love this feeling. I don't need any of them back either. I just learned that the reason Chloe has been so quiet is because she's pregnant, and things are really messy right now between her and my brother, but my parents are obviously blaming me for it. One of my cousins who still follows them on Facebook sent me a post by my dad where he named and shamed me for ruining my brother's marriage over some petty high school grudge. Apparently, it's not my brother's fault that he was cheating back then, and neither is it Chloe's fault that she'd been cheating on my brother. It's all somehow my fault. He's posted about what has happened but has left out all the important details, including the fact that Chloe was the one who had tried to make a deal with me first and not the other way around. It's not like I caught her with Marcus and then forced her to cough up money every month or else I'd spill the beans. I didn't even have that idea until she made an offer, so they really can't use the term blackmail here. That's literally just ridiculous. My extended family, particularly my aunts and uncles who are of my parents' generation or older, have predictably aligned themselves with my parents' perspective. Their allegiance stems from two clear reasons. First, they are unaware of my side of the story, and second, even if they were informed, their loyalty to my parents would likely overshadow any empathy for me. My parents have firmly established me as the villain in this saga, insisting that I must be held accountable and put in my place. Consequently, my relatives have taken it upon themselves to inundate me with text messages laden with disapproval and disdain for my actions. They claim they expected better from me, a sentiment I find utterly bewildering. These are individuals who have scarcely been a presence in my life, their interest in me limited to perfunctory exchanges during holiday gatherings. Our interactions have always been awkward, marked by a superficial politeness that never fostered genuine connection. To me, they are virtual strangers, so their presumption to hold expectations of my behavior is not only absurd but deeply disconnected from reality. What stings even more is my father's deliberate omission of the truth in his public narrative. He has conveniently glossed over the devastating impact of my brother's rumor, which branded me a kleptomaniac in high school and subjected me to relentless bullying for 4 years. He dismisses this trauma as a trivial sibling spat, ignoring the profound isolation and pain it caused me. Those years were a crucible, leaving me with scars that still ache, as I navigated school and home with virtually no support. I was alone, abandoned by those who should have protected me. No child should endure such a crucible, and I carry the weight of that experience with me still, unable to simply move on as my family seems to expect. My family's current attempt to paint themselves as victims, casting all blame on me, is a narrative I refuse to let stand unchallenged. I took a stand by sharing my perspective online, determined to wrest control of the story from their grasp. It has only been 15 minutes since I posted, and I find myself hesitating to check the notifications, bracing for the potential onslaught of criticism. Yet, I hold on to the certainty that a few close friends and select family members will rally behind me, offering the support I've long craved. I can only hope that their encouragement will outweigh the negativity that may follow. This ordeal has crystallized my exhaustion with my family. They are, in essence, a persistent source of emotional turmoil, akin to a chronic headache that refuses to relent. I long for the day when this drama fades, allowing me to move forward unburdened by their judgment. My decision to distance myself from them feels like a necessary act of self-preservation, a step toward healing from the wounds they've inflicted and reclaiming the peace I deserve. 3 days have passed since I shared my side of the story online, and the response has been overwhelming, particularly among those who knew my brother and me during our high school years. The post gained traction, stirring up old memories and sparking conversations among our former classmates. However, it also reached an unexpected audience, a woman from my brother's graduating class who felt compelled to expose a hidden chapter of his deception. Her revelation was a bombshell, dragging my brother's carefully curated image through the mud for lying about his marital status. This woman, who had moved out of state after high school, had recently visited our city. My brother, ever the opportunist, saw her Instagram story and seized the chance to reconnect. He struck up a conversation, charming his way into asking her out on a date. What followed was an intimate encounter, all under the pretense that he was unattached. He cleverly used a burner account to communicate, keeping his real profile, complete with photos of him and Chloe, out of sight. This calculated move ensured his deception remained hidden, a tactic that suggests a pattern of behavior far more deliberate than I had initially realized. Apparently, he uses this secondary account to keep tabs on other women he knows, a detail that paints him as more cunning than Chloe in their shared game of infidelity. The woman, unaware of his marriage, kept their encounter a secret, believing his promises to stay in touch. But once she left the city, my brother promptly blocked her on all platforms, erasing her from his digital world without a second thought. It was only when she stumbled across my post, followed by my father's public attempt to control the narrative, that she pieced together the truth. Outraged, she shared her story, exposing my brother's hypocrisy. While he played the victim, devastated by Chloe's affair with Marcus, he was no saint himself, engaging in the same betrayal he so loudly condemned. This revelation, while shocking, didn't surprise me. My brother's history as a serial cheater in high school and college made this behavior all too familiar. A cheater, it seems, remains true to form. What's darkly amusing is how he ended up with Chloe, a mirror of his own duplicity. Now, their marriage is crumbling, headed toward a contentious divorce complicated by a looming custody battle. Chloe's pregnancy adds another layer of chaos, as the paternity of her child remains uncertain, a fact that promises to fuel further drama. Reflecting on this, I find myself grappling with a mix of emotions. Part of me revels in the poetic justice of it all. My brother, who once made my teenage years a living hell with his cruel rumor, is now facing a public reckoning of his own making. The pain he inflicted on me, 4 years of relentless bullying that left scars I still carry, makes his current downfall feel like karma's long overdue verdict. Yet, there's a quieter part of me that wonders about the cost of this cycle of betrayal and revenge. I've chosen to step back, to let the drama unfold without my interference, watching it like a gripping soap opera. It's liberating to no longer feel tethered to their chaos, to finally prioritize my own peace over their expectations. The past few days have shown me how far-reaching the consequences of truth can be. By sharing my story, I inadvertently set off a chain reaction that exposed not just Chloe's affair but my brother's deceit as well. It's a reminder that secrets, no matter how carefully guarded, have a way of surfacing. For now, I'm content to sit back, process the fallout, and focus on building a life free from the toxicity of my family's drama. This chapter, messy as it is, feels like a turning point, one where I reclaim my narrative and let the consequences fall where they may.